Hey, I'm Florian, author at lifesciencementor.com, and this is the first week overview of Know Nothing November. Started last week, and I'm happy to say that I met all my goals that I set. So, to remember, Know Nothing November is about cutting out 3 vices of your choice from your life, and it's also about having one additional project you're working on every day. So you don't have everything like nothing, November. You have something as well, right? You're saying no to nothing. Okay, so my vices that I wanted to get rid of were, first one was no distractions. I would go much too often to clickbait videos or blog posts, and then I'm in there, and then the next click, and the next click, and yeah, it could be interesting, right? I'm sure I'm not the only one feeling like that. These things eat up a lot of your time. Therefore, I cut them out, right? So what I did was I managed to withstand the temptation like 80% of the time, and 20% of the time I still gave in, but even then, after 1 or 2 clicks, after a few minutes, I went back, withdrew myself from the computer. So how did I do that? 3 things. First of all, I never abandoned any link or any idea that I had. I would write it down and come back to it later. If I had a link, I would click on it, quickly look over it. If the website that popped up reminds me of doing something urgent, if it doesn't remind me of anything, I would bookmark it in a reading list and I would look at it later. And by the way, that later, often you don't even know what you found about that first web page. So often it's really the kick of the moment that you want to do a click and see, oh, there's news, let's look there, right? So, but with that trick, bookmarking the web page for later, I never lose a potentially interesting link. Well, some websites are really interesting, can help you, right? You don't want to lose them, or you don't want to forget about a thought because it might be distracting you right this moment. You write it down. You bookmark the web page, and it's out of your mind, but you still keep it. So that was number 1. Number 2 was I kept tally. What I mean by that is anytime I had a link and I bookmarked that link instead of clicking on it or going further down the rabbit hole, I would make a little line on a pin-up note, a stick-it note, however you call it, and I would here see temptation withstood several times, and this is temptation given in, like 2 times. So that's a vastly great ratio, right? So many times withstood and like only 2 times given in. If you do that, and you can also see over time how the temptation given in row becomes smaller and smaller, gives you additional satisfaction. At the end of the day, yeah, it's immensely satisfying to see a list with a lot of little lines, a lot of little opportunities that you withstood temptation to get distracted. A lot of little lines that means at this moment, this second, or that second, you really focused on your work and continued with it. It also provides you an alternative dopamine click. So we click on a link and then our brain sends out dopamine as a little reward signal. That's how habits are formed. But I've replaced the click with the little check mark here. So I still get this dopamine kick, but now I'm channeling that to something much more useful. That was number 2. And number 3 was to define the project you're working on very, very clearly. So the biggest danger of getting distracted for me is when I'm exhausted, when I'm upset about something, or when I'm kind of like mellow, I don't really know what to do next. So it's a state of insecurity, and then I crave just something to provide some directionality. And as stupid as it may sound, clicking on a website, going down, doing some research, following a certain train of thought, yeah, that provides direction, right? I call it train of thought. The chain of websites you click on, that's a clear direction, even though that direction keeps you in circles and really goes nowhere and in the end collapses on itself. For the moment, you have some direction. And you want to avoid that by whatever you do to define the purpose of what you do, the goal, why are you doing this? And then you define clear action steps. For example, in the past I would write on my to-do list something like manuscript. Well, manuscript could mean a lot of different things. For me as a biologist, it basically meant publish the manuscript. And the higher purpose of that is I add it to my resume, I move my career forward, and I share the results I got in the lab and my lab got with the outside world. So that's a clear purpose. Now I have a sense, something to work towards, right? And then still manuscript means a lot of things. I divide that up into small steps. For example, may mean step 1, take the raw data and import them into Photoshop. Step 2, annotate the panels in Photoshop. Step 3, save it as a TIFF file. You see, it's very detailed. And then step 4, insert the TIFF files into the text, the Word file of the manuscript. Fifth point is proofread it. And if that is too much, you can still say proofread page number 1. Be as precise and exactly as you can. And then save the whole thing as PDF. And the last step, send it in to the journal for review. See, it's very clearly defined. There's no way I can think of some distractions or like the action steps are right there. And that's something that comes very naturally to us. Think about when you get up in the morning and you want to make your coffee. You are visualizing the coffee, or at least I do. You visualize the coffee, black coffee in the cup. And then you know automatically what steps to take, right? Go to the kitchen, grab the coffee from the cupboard, put a scoop into your coffee scoop or whatever you have, put water in the machine, switch it on, 5 minutes later, coffee ready. You don't even need to think about all those steps. You do automatically, and you don't think, oh, make something to drink for breakfast. I'm not writing that down in my to-do list. I might write down, get coffee. That's the purpose, coffee, right? And then I go and execute the steps that are necessary automatically. See, if you have a purpose, everything else falls more or less in place on its own, right? I'm not going to read a magazine when I want to have a coffee. I just go straight forward and make my damn coffee. And that's that for distractions. That's how I weathered that. Point 2, no snacks. No snacks was hard at first, and there was like 2 hours in between where I really had a craving for snacks, but I withstood those 2 hours, and then everything was fine. Often, when you try to get rid of a habit, you have like 1 or 2 afternoons per week where you really suffer. Like 2 hours where you really, I didn't think it would be that hard. Yeah, I don't want to do X, Y, Z, but really, under these circumstances, there's got to be an exception. No, there's no exception. You just wait it out. And after the afternoon is gone, everything's fine again. Now, how did I withstand the snack addiction, right? 3 things. One was I provided some variety with my meals, right? I didn't have like hard-boiled eggs every day. I had like hard-boiled eggs. Then I would switch to omelette. Or I would spice my steak differently, right? And to begin with, I would make my dinner, and I'm going on a low-carb diet, so I make my dinner and lunch and breakfast still that it's delicious. For example, there's a chocolate. I have a chocolate protein shake in the morning. Magically, it tastes like chocolate, but there's no carbs in it, and so I have that with almond milk, and it's delicious. So that's what I'm. So that's point. That's the next point. Just make your meals delicious. Food is supposed to be fun, at least for me. So I don't want to have anything drab that I have to eat, right? Because then the temptation is really too high to eat something like nice, like snacks. And the third part is track your progress, right? I track my progress, and that meant for me, I'm measuring my body fat in the morning every day. I measure my weight, and then I put it down into a graphic. This Excel sheet. The Excel sheet has a graphic, as I said, and at the end of that graphic in 2016, so the x-axis, that's the time, goes that way. This video is mirror symmetrical, so when I think I move my right hand, it moves the left hand on that video. Anyway, the x-axis has the time, the days, until end of 2016. The y-axis, vertical axis, has the amount of body fat. So, right, so I have a linear line from the starting value of my body fat, 27%, down to 8%. And then I measure my body fat every day, and it goes up and down. It can be frustrating. Like one day, wow, it really is down a lot. The next day is really going up. Even though your diet stayed the same, your workout in the morning stayed the same, that's just a matter of the beast. But over time, over a week, you see that the tendency is down. And when you look at the graphic in my blog post, you see that the real body fat line is sort of hugging that ideal line. So the tendency is down. When you do that, just imagine that lots of other things you're working towards, where you don't have a clearly defined measure, will probably go on a very similar up and down, right? And I use body fat as a proxy for that. So I know that it can fluctuate. My productivity will fluctuate over the day, but by and large, towards my goal, I move closer and closer. And that's a very relieving thing to see, and it teaches you to not be discouraged by momentary setbacks, but to stick it out, because you know without a shadow of a doubt that on the long run it will work out. So it's really good to have like a solid, like a graphic representation based on solid measuring data. And the third point is getting up at early in the morning, between 5 and 7. And 5 days in the week I went up at 5, and 2 days at 7 when I went to bed really late in the evening. So how did I do that? I think the most important factor was to do something every day that I really like. Use something you really like for example, learn to play a music instrument, meet with friends, maybe even play your favorite game, whatever it is. Work on a novel, work on some products, work on a blog like I do. Do it like for 1 hour or half an hour per day, and you get that always done, no matter how big your workload is. You can set aside 30 to 60 minutes, and then you have something to look forward to every day. Isn't that great? I can't wait to get up the next morning at 5. You know, knowing that the day is really young and you're even up nowadays before the sun goes up, that really makes me happy. And of course, if you have to work a night shift, then you can't get up at 5. But still, you will start in the day happy and full of energy. And you may say, "Oh, that's just your personality." No, it's not. I mean, I thought I was a night owl until I switched back to do it to start my day in the morning, and I'm happy, much happier than working late at night. That's for getting up early. And then I worked on this website for an hour at least per day. In the first 3 days of the week, I went through a lot of notes that I took over the last 3 months and put them into really distinct projects and next action steps, as I said earlier in this video. And then I published additional video per day from the 180-day idea challenge. And that gives me one purpose for the next 6 months, to have 10 ideas every day and then develop some new interesting thoughts on what I can do next. And so that's my purpose, go through this 180-day challenge. And Know Nothing November is another purpose. So I'm having 2 different purposes on my blog, and it's really a joy to work for it, and I really hope I can provide some useful information for all of you guys out there. And I hope to see you back next week. on this channel, or see you back tomorrow for another day of my 180-day idea challenge. You can follow me on my blog. The link is down there. And you can follow my progress on the 180-day challenge and NoNothingNovember there. There's also a link to Reddit where you can follow my 180-day challenge day by day. And I wish you all the best and a nice start into the week. And don't forget, lifesciencementor.com. Yes, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments below on YouTube, or go to the corresponding blog post and leave your comments there. I'm answering every comment right now, and wish you once again all the best, and thanks for accompanying me and following me on my journey. Take care.